Welcome back. Welcome back.
Here we go. So we're back. Episode 3.
From Columbus, Ohio.
Charlie Diodore, I know you did not enjoy that meandering intro, but that's what we got because we're not radio professionals yet.
We're working on it. We're trying to get better.
Here we
show
are.
by show.
Show by show. And we saw some exciting things today. There should be an episode more specifically about it.
I feel like it can definitely be its own standalone episode. There was things happened today. We're changed people after what we saw today.
Yeah. And actually, maybe we get into it. One of the most interesting things that I discovered today is how tiny our slice of fitness is. If fitness is a very small part of society overall, what we do with strength sports, I guess you could say, right?
Well, CrossFit, yeah.
CrossFit, definitely. And then with that, I'd fold them together.
Powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting.
And
strongman. Yeah.
It's such a tiny slice of the world.
Yeah, we, I think when we're in the gym all the time, and because we feel like, CrossFit's a big part of our lives, and that CrossFit's sort of still a growing trend, even though it's, maybe not growing as fast as it was at certain times. I think we maybe think it's a little bit of a bigger part of the fitness picture than we thought. But walking around the Arnold, I mean the ratio of bodybuilders and teens looking to get huge, jacked and tan, to CrossFitters was pretty insane.
Yeah, and I think one of the illusions, I don't know if it's illusion, I don't know if that's a good word, but one of the impressions you get, particularly because of the games, and we're deep into the 2015 open season right now, is that CrossFit has a lot of money involved in it. To some extent. I mean, that's the gripe of a lot of people, is that there's not better athletes, because the money's not there. Wait till the money's there. Ex-collegiate guys who just missed the cut to the NFL, they'll take the money from you, whatever. But my point is because the games has gotten more sophisticated, the sponsorship from companies has gotten more sophisticated. There's been corporate sponsorship from people like Reebok.
Yeah, plenty of, even outside the big ones, there's lots of very, much smaller sponsorships out there that are helping people get by and do the fitness thing.
And and the impression that I had was that it was a lot bigger than we are. But one of the things that struck me, and we did see the champ today. We saw both champs today.
Yep, Camille and Rich.
Yeah, but and they were in the Rogue booth, and this is what struck me, and this is what I want to talk about specifically, is Rogue supplied the equipment for the strongman contest.
Yeah, for parts of it, at least the dumbbell.
Right. They were a big part of it. Mm. Their booth was much more than what you imagine a booth to be. They had a full-size rig.
Yeah, the rig was huge. It was bigger than a normal. It felt like it was very tall. It was bigger than a normal.
It was one that could have 15-foot ropes in it if they had.
Very tall.
So they had a lot of floor space, but their vendor space compared to something like EAS, which most of you probably remember from being a teenager and buying shitty protein, the purple and silver brand. EAS's booth was like going to Las Vegas.
They had one of those like telephone booths with the dollar bills flying around in it.
Yeah, like you were in middle school and you just won the Reading Rainbow Prize, and that was your gift. I don't know if any of you had that experience, but I did.
You got to get in the booth and grab dollar bills.
Dollar bills, like a greedy fucking capitalist, just reaching for those dollar bills. Their booth was enormous, and you could see, I don't know, a disparity might be too drastic of a word, but you could see the difference between how many people are into that and how many people are into what we are into. And the truth is, and maybe this is what this conversation is that fitness still, for the majority of the people that even give a shit about fitness, is bodybuilding to an extent, right?
Yeah, I think maybe where competitive bodybuilding is sort of the peak,
right?
It's still like a sliding scale going back from like getting shaved and getting the spray tan and like
getting shaved down
by your pops.
Do you remember that? MTV True
True
Life.
Life,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
like-
guy was like, "Hey, Pops, come shave my fucking ass."
I remember that.
Okay. Formative experience for me seeing that. Pretty much put the kibosh on any kind of... I mean, not that I could actually do it, but the kibosh on bodybuilding. I was just blown away by I'm still actually blown away by this fact right now.
I mean, the convention hall, I have to guess maybe a couple 100,000 square feet, and I couldn't even guess. A couple hundreds of vendors maybe.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of them could have cared less about CrossFit, and there was, I don't know, I saw some number around like something like 18,000 people are going to go maybe to the Arnold this year. Maybe that's, I don't know, outdated at this point, but tons of people there. One booth that could have cared, at all about CrossFitters.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, it's sort of interesting to see where, we're growing. We've certainly changed things a lot, but at least in this environment, it was a very small piece of the puzzle. There's a paid section of the Arnold where all this stuff was happening, where clearly the money was, where these guys I know had to probably pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have the booths, and then you go outside into what's basically the free section, and that's where they're hosting the Olympic weightlifting competition and the powerlifting competition. Maybe they had to pay to be there, but you didn't have to pay to get in to watch. So
right.
I feel like there was was sort of a different tier there. So it was interesting for us.
Two interesting things I think in that unpaid section, and I don't know about legal rules. I don't give a shit. You saw companies that I associate with CrossFit or CrossFit-esque. I don't even know what CrossFit-esque means, but like CrossFit type activities. That was very unclear. I'll just say it. Caffeine and Kilos, High Elite, a bunch of companies that they were not in the paid section. And my impression, and maybe this is the magnification of the internet, is that Caffeine and Kilos is a very successful company, and it likely is a very successful company, but the perspective of how successful it is compared to these other EAS and other bodybuilding type protein supplement whatever brands, it was just astounding.
Yeah, we could compare like the just the tent that maybe somebody that we thought was very successful to, and maybe the owners are there. It's cool, you got to meet some cool people, but then you look and see that Quest Bar has a 20-foot tall like
Jumbotron.
LCD, Jumbotron displaying a very expensive looking ad on loop. So it's really, I think it speaks a lot for maybe what still a lot of people are looking for, what a lot of people associate with fitness and health and well-being, and sort of what they're looking for. And I think it's still, it's still very much, in the Globo gym. I mean, that's where it's, a lot of people are still doing things.
The girls that worked in the EAS booth, the girls that worked in the Quest nutrition booth, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea who the owner of that company is.
Okay.
Maybe they know his name. I don't know, or her name. Maybe they've seen him or her. They don't know who that person is. I saw Katie and Bill Henniger.
Yep.
They own Rogue. I'm pretty sure that the guy I saw in the Caffeine and Kilos tent is the dude that I see in the videos all the time.
Yeah, I've definitely seen him before.
Yeah, maybe he owns it. Maybe he has some kind of stake in it. I don't know. For CrossFit to grow, a lot of the reason that CrossFit has grown is relationships, word of mouth, grassroots. But it seems like in order for CrossFit to grow to that level, there's going to start to be this big, scaling. There's going to start to be this disconnect between the people that have to man the booths and like the people that actually make the stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that's already happened a lot. It happens in CrossFit gyms from the owners themselves and, the businesses surrounding CrossFit. I have to imagine that, maybe at a certain point when the Rogue folks were starting the gym, the gym and the equipment company itself, that they were down there sweeping the floors and maybe programming the website late at night. But I have to imagine at a certain point they had other things to work on, and that it's been scaling for a while.
Yeah,
I do think it's cool though that that people still know who they are, and I feel like it's going to be like that for a long time.
Right, and
maybe until I just it's hard to imagine a world where no one is thinking about those people.
That's what I'm trying to say. It seems to me that there's, for it to get what we saw today, like we had this like whoa moment, right?
Yeah.
And for us to get to that level, there's gonna have to be this point where like people don't know. The guy who's even machining the bars at Rogue like might not have any idea who Bill and Katie Henninger are, just the same as the kid who works at the Chick-fil-A cash register has no idea, other than in the training that they get, in quotes, who the owner of Chick-fil-A is.
I mean, I feel
which is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah, but I think that people probably have an idea who are running these companies what they want to look like long term, and maybe that's not there. Maybe that's not the goal at all, is for it to get that big. So you maybe say, okay, it has to grow in a certain way to, and change to get that big. But maybe people just don't want it to be that big. Maybe it's or maybe they don't want to have a company that's like that. I mean, I think that's a lot of the part of the appeal of the CrossFit community and the businesses surrounding it, the grassroots aspect, which feels very genuine. I mean, it feels like, all right, these people got into the equipment business maybe not to make money, but to make good barbells, or maybe because people needed a good source of equipment and it wasn't out there yet.
I feel like that's true, but I feel like that's a little propaganda-ish of you. Because there has to be people out there that say, this thing can make a lot more money than it does now. We got to figure out a way to get it there. I think what's interesting is we saw how big the pie was, and there's a lot of people that are making a pretty good living off of the tiny piece of the pie that we got. So that there are, and I don't know, put it visionaries in quotes, right? Because who's to say that see that thing and go, well, if people can make pretty good livings and employ a good number of people off of this, how much more could happen if we do scale it up? I wonder what that world looks like if it ever happens.
Yeah.
But you don't want to live in that world.
I feel like a lot of people don't. I mean, I think as a
I
business
don't
owner,
want to live in that world.
Have an idea what you want your business to look like and what you, I mean, I think there's a balance to the money you're making and what you want your job to be like. I know some people who say run some CrossFit businesses and still very involved. So it's, I mean, maybe you could, maybe there's some possibility you, I don't know, sell off a stake of it to investors, and maybe you got a board, and maybe they're running the show, and maybe they can find a way to make more money. Or maybe you can stay as involved as you are, and maybe it won't grow as fast, but it's still something that is important to you.
Right. Not to beat this dead horse. That just came to my mind literally right now. I can't talk. Natural Grips went on Shark Tank to get an investor. Yeah. So that, and I don't remember the exact scenario, but I want to pretend it was because they couldn't produce enough Natural Grips with the money they had. That is some sort of weird indication that maybe those people are coming in. But I mean, I agree with you that wouldn't be a good thing. We have seen it change, though, from what it was way back in the day to what it is now. Like, no Rogue existed back then. Right. And it's a good thing that a Rogue grew out of the demand of a bunch of people wanting to do this thing and needing barbells.
Yeah, I think, and it will change, I'm sure. At some point, people won't be able to hop in as easily into the CrossFit market. Like,
I feel like it's already happening.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, when someone like Rogue came in, there was this need, this vacuum to be filled, and they were the only ones. I mean, there's other people out there, but they were doing something that people needed. I mean, especially with, say, the rigs. Like, people hopped on the Rogue train when suddenly you didn't have to find some weirdo welder and hire him and pay him to put this rig together for you.
Shoddy rig.
I'll say I never had to.
Suspect insurance rig.
I never had to hire a weirdo welder. I always knew people. But anyways, at this point, there's equipment companies popping up all the time. I don't know the names of the owners. because there's just so many of them now. But tons of them are popping up, and it's certainly a different world. They're not, they're going to have a much more difficult time growing to the size that Rogue has.
Yeah.
So it's, certainly the market's changed quite a bit already in terms of like being able to hop in. So, maybe if someone wants to get into the CrossFit community at this point, because there's a lot more competition, maybe it's going to be one of those things where they need some large cash investors, and they need a much more developed business model and a much more, something that looks more traditional, possibly.
Which like reminds me, like you're gonna have to have your, I was gonna say a different word, but you're gonna have your stuff wired tight. This is for Jake, no cursing. To get in, because there's so much competition, and we've been thinking of that a lot when it comes to what we're doing with the podcast and the videos and movement RVA in general.
Yeah.
We can't just pop in like some other fitness podcasts have come into the scene, where you can make a lot of mistakes initially and kind of figure it as you go along. We have to look at what these guys are doing and try to emulate their best practices and totally avoid the things that we don't like about what they do.
Yeah, you have to improve much faster. You have to be, I think...
margin error is like razor thin at this point.
Yeah. Improve more quickly, offer something certainly unique, and find some way to differentiate yourself. That's true for, something like a podcast or a sort of media or information-driven business, or even CrossFit gyms themselves. I've talked about it many times, discussing our own gym's origins, where we started with next to nothing. And
we made our own rings. Yeah. I feel like I give all the history lessons on this freaking podcast.
There's two ways to make rings if you cannot pay $50 now, which I would have killed to pay $50 at that point to get a good set of rings.
Which they did not cost that back then.
They didn't exist, I don't think.
There was like one pair, and it was a lot of money.
It was like some like $300 like you're
using at the Olympics.
The same things, yeah, the same things you're getting at the Olympics. That's the only thing that was available.
We made rings.
You can make rings by either you can cut basically donuts out of plywood
and then glue them
together, and then sand them a whole lot until they're round.
We did that.
Yeah, I used a router at one point, so it was kind of legit. Those, I made 2 pairs. Both of them eventually broke in action, just shattered. And then
we paid out a settlement for those.
You can also dip you can also get PVC pipe and dip it in like a hot oil until it's, and then bend it around a paint can.
100% did that too.
Bend it around a paint can and then put a rope through it, and then you can also make rings that way.
Okay, so any of you don't want to pay $50 or spend $50 on freaking rings,
that's what you do. So we started with nothing. We were making rings out of trash. And
shit and trash.
From there, it's you couldn't do that right now. It's much more difficult.
Someone would walk into your gym and be like, "What kind of bootleg operation are you running here?"
People already thought we were bootleg. I'm sure people are just weirded out. Like, we have some of our members who are still at the gym talk about how terrified they were coming to the backyard for the first time, because it was just like dudes working out in a backyard that was dirty. So if you did that now, no one would go. Like, why would? Maybe you could get a few people still.
That'd be
No, keep going.
I think it's a good point. There's a bigger point I want to get to. Not a bigger point, but just kind of a segue.
Hey, don't be an asshole about your points.
No, here's the real deal. It's funny because the hardcore aspect, like come in our backyard and use these Sears weights to work out with us, was definitely the marketing selling point back then. And that is not a selling point in any way.
Well, because
look at the last couple months, you got a bamboo lobby in the front now, which that never existed in any way, shape, or form back then.
Well, I think part of it then is that we were part of the existing gym. Like, we were in the same group as other gyms, and we had to market ourselves and differentiate ourselves from the Gold Gym down the street.
Yeah.
And why not go to the VCU student gym, and why not go to American Family Fitness?
Right, because at least it's clean and inside.
Yeah, and so we're saying, well, you want to come to us because it's like it's rugged and hardcore.
Rough, rugged, and
looks
raw.
like a prison yard. It's been called that, not by myself. But
Do you want to feel like your life's threatened? Come to the prison yard.
Yeah.
Come to CrossFit RVA, where we threaten your life on a daily basis.
so now it's completely separate. Now it's part of it's just its own unique entity. And so now you have to compare yourself to other CrossFit gyms, not to. I mean, I could care less if American Family moved in next door. I feel like it'd only do good things for us.
Yeah, and that's true. But in some ways, because you have to have that lobby that you have now. In a lot of ways, you have to have that retail section. In a lot of ways, I'm not going to say you have to have anything, but let's just pretend for the argument's sake you do.
I think it's good for the gym,
right? But that is competing with those more established gyms in a way.
I feel like they could say it, but also it's saying, well, all right, we've, guys, the CrossFit gyms, like we have established that we are these certain things. We're rugged, but we are also effective, and it's we have this great community.
Yeah, and those are the things that are much more marketed now.
And so we've settled like we don't need the or it's not beneficial to have that sort of like the dirty, like there's blood on the bars, the toilets are dirty.
Toilets are clogged.
It's we don't have like there's no appeal there anymore. And I don't know,
Someone
maybe
took
some
a
people
dump on the floor
who are just joining up are like, how would
We
any
don't
of that
care.
be like appealing? But it's I feel like that's gone. You don't need that part. So now maybe the CrossFit gyms have to look at some of these, once it's like we've established that we are effective and that we have good trainers, and everyone says they have good trainers and good programming and whatnot, then it's like, well, let's go back to other things people care about. And it's maybe they don't want to be like totally uncomfortable going to the bathroom. Like, this is weird. I'm going to catch a disease.
Someone took a dump on the floor.
Yeah. You don't need that.
Well, and what's funny is I think what you're saying is that I hate the word marketing, so I'm not going to use it. But the story you tell about yourself is always evolving, right?
Absolutely.
As everything else changes around you. So back to our original point, we saw today that there's children outside this sketchy hotel room.
With the Red Light Hotel in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, I'm back to my point. The
All right, we're good.
The story you tell about yourself and the story you tell people that potentially want to buy what you're trying to sell them is constantly evolving as everything evolves around you. So seeing what we saw today and having the realizations we had today, as we move deeper into that pie, what is the story going to have to evolve to? I'm not saying but that story is definitely going to keep evolving.
Absolutely. And now, I mean, definitely don't know. I mean, we can try to look at it and see, and I think we've done a good job of sort of staying at least current or ahead in terms of our having established vision and like making sure we're not staying stagnant and not like letting the gym evolve and I guess to meet sort of how things are growing in the community as a whole.
Yeah. And I think probably to segue into the last thing that we were thinking about, the story you tell about yourself to get people to do what you want them to do is really important. And I think super important to us is authenticity, which is why like I'm extremely honest about not being very fit. And Jake is infamous for having a shirt with his Shroud of Turin imprint on it that says it's just exercise people. So like there's this vein of authenticity that runs through where, I mean, to keep it local for a minute, you're not going to see the guy in like knee socks and backwards trucker hat, taped up, chalked up, walking around the gym. No one really takes their shirts off. You know what I mean? Like there's this, it's a different brand of, in a lot of ways, it's a different brand of CrossFit, what you get at CrossFit RVA.
It's not the
it's not the
clothes.
Right.
It's not the yeah, no, it is. It goes back down to, again, what you're getting out of it and the people that are there, the training, and saying that that's sort of the most important part. And it's hard to say, there's a certain aspect of CrossFit culture that you see that maybe is very apparent on the internet, and it's saying, well, we don't, it's a little bit more than that. I mean, people get the latest CrossFit shoes or whatever, but it's
but it's never about that.
Yes, it's not first and foremost. I think it's very easy to, again, make it about that, make it about the shoes and the belt and the whatever cool kind of coffees out these days.
Mohawks.
Mohawks, is that a thing that
I don't
people
got
do
hair.
now?
I don't got hair, so I'm angry.
I don't cut my hair, so I'm okay.
So you're okay with
I don't got to worry about it.
Mohawks. This podcast to me is definitely an extension of that. Movement RVA is an extension of that, and I listen to more podcasts on Earth than anyone else on Earth. In fact, when we were driving here, we decided we were going to listen to podcasts, and everyone I put on I had listened to before, and Jake was very angry with me.
Because it's
like a girlfriend who's mad that you watched a movie before she did.
It's like when you're trying to watch the newest episode of New Girl with your wife. She's already seen it.
Why are you mad? She can
didn't
enjoy
tell you
it
about
the
it.
second time around.
It's that bad. It's like, oh, hey, let's listen to this podcast, and you've already listened to it.
So we listened to a bunch of podcasts.
It's not a shared experience anymore.
Oh, God. And one trend that I notice that is really, I actually think it's dangerous in a lot of ways is, hear me out on this, the positivity trend.
Continue.
Lots of dead air.
There was no question.
I want to do it for effect. The positivity trend.
Let's hear it.
This is my problem with it. First of all, I feel like every podcast I listen to, and maybe I just listen to a certain type of podcast all the time, is just completely full of buzzwords. And I'm going to throw out a whole bunch that I'm never going to say ever in my life. Optimize. Never going to say that word. 10,000 hours in reference to the 10,000 hours of practice it takes you to master something.
People say that a lot.
I hate that. And
what happens between now 9,999 and then 10,000?
It's a completely bogus concept. We're going to get to this. Okay. Positivity. I'm not against being positive, but the attempt to live your life in a way that nothing, to avoid negativity or to pretend negativity doesn't exist, or more importantly, don't listen to the input that negativity gives you about whatever it is you're doing, because the input of negativity is an important way to right your ship or get perspective, is important. I said another word to you. I forget what it was. I'll never say optimize 10,000 hours. Oh, flow state.
I don't even, what does that even mean?
Okay, a flow state, you should Google it and read it. Flow state is the new buzzword about some sort of mystical, quasi-religious, psychedelic.
What kind of drugs are involved in a flow state?
Well, apparently it can either be with lots of drugs or drug-free, but you're at your most productive in the peak of, intellectual prowess. Athletes apparently get it when they're performing their tasks. It goes hand in hand with the 10,000 hours concept, so on and so forth. These are thrown around all the time, and I think that they're not relevant to the vast majority of people. Not only because they're a bunch of, it's just guruism. It's just being a guru. And if you're someone that's not interested in someone selling you something, or as my grandma used to say, selling you shit and calling it sugar, it's just very dangerous to start to follow these things. You can get sound advice from somebody with a completely normal, healthy perspective.
I agree completely, Matt.
Oh, okay, that went nowhere.
You're on a tear right now.
I am on a tear, and the point is that you can find many podcasts. You can actually find many podcasts in strength and conditioning. And then to bring it down even tighter, you can find many podcasts about CrossFit or lifestyle or whatever it is we're doing with this podcast. But this is the one podcast where we're not going to sell you shit and call it sugar.
Absolutely.
I guess that's a good point to sign off tonight.
Sounds good. I feel like we got some other things to talk about in the near future. We got some good topics at hand.
Yeah. The next episode should be talking to Morgan German about her strong a woman experience at the Arnold, competing against gigantic Poles and Russians and Ukrainians.